Hey guys, so welcome back to the channel. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about new versus old, or new versus the traditional. Before I get into that, once again, if you get something from these videos or this video in particular, please give me a thumbs up, a heart, a like. Please become a part of the community by subscribing to the YouTube channel, to following me on Instagram, um, liking the Mahapatha Yoga Facebook page, and maybe even becoming a patron on Patreon and contributing a perhaps small amount monthly to help me make these videos. They do cost time and money and energy to make, and I love doing it. I want to keep doing it, and I want to keep making them free and available to everybody. So if you have the means and the desire, please contribute something. And that way, someone who maybe has the desire but not the means will still be able to have access to these videos for free. So new versus old, traditional versus innovative, these are in a sort of yin-yang relationship to one another. And as a yoga teacher, yoga has a very rich tradition. It's actually not really accurate to say it has a tradition. And yoga really has many different traditions. And so if we look at these different traditions, there are differences within them. And also yoga can draw from different traditions. But it does have a long and rich history. So some teachers' approach to teaching is to slavishly try and follow tradition. They won't do anything that's innovative or new. They instead ignore these things and insist that we must do it the old way. So, is doing it the old way the right way? The answer is it depends. Sometimes the way things have been done for a long time, they are done that way because they've been effective. It's been useful. But here's the thing. Today is a new day. It's not 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years ago. And maybe a certain technique or teaching was relevant and it worked up until yesterday. But maybe yesterday the whole game changed. Maybe things are different. Maybe the political landscape is different. Maybe the social landscape is different. So a teaching is really only as valuable as it is effective. And if a teaching is very old and it is effective, then by all means use it. But if a teaching is old, and there are many teachings like this that are old, they are traditional, but they are no longer relevant and they are no longer valuable in terms of spirituality. Some techniques may be valuable for some people and not for others. Some techniques may be valuable in certain contexts. In other words, in certain cultures, a teaching may be very valuable and irrelevant in another culture. So really, again, the question is, are we awake? We don't want to slavishly follow something just because it's traditional. We really need to know, is it relevant? And this is really something that your teacher needs to know if you have a teacher. If you're guiding yourself, it can be very difficult to know whether something is relevant or not. The other side of the coin is the new. We have this in America in spades. So you might, if you want to think of this in terms of different cultures or countries, then you might look at traditional India as maybe being the traditional point of view. There are villages or places in India where maybe even if something isn't relevant or isn't valuable, people will just continue doing those things because that's the way it's been done for a long time. And I'm not trying to criticize India or the way things are done there. But this happens here, it happens everywhere. This is the way we've always done it. This is the way we're going to continue to do it. But there really is very little awareness of whether or not things are working. And there's a very interesting experiment that I've shared with students before, where there is a cage that's full of monkeys, and the cage is electrified so that the monkeys can be shocked. In the middle of the cage is placed a ladder that leads up to a banana, a bunch of bananas. Well, monkeys love bananas. And so the monkey would go up the ladder and try and get the bananas. What the experimenters did is every time a monkey went up there, they would shock all the other monkeys on the ground. Well, monkeys aren't stupid, and so they eventually figured out what was going on. And if any of them tried to climb up the ladder, they would shock the monkeys in the cage. Then gradually, the monkeys would jump on the one that was trying to go up the ladder and keep them from going up there. Eventually, none of the monkeys went up the ladder, even though there was ripe bananas right there for the taking. What ended up happening is gradually the experimenters switched out the monkeys, one by one. The new monkey, of course, not knowing what was going on, would immediately go for the bananas. All the other monkeys would jump on it and beat it up. Never got to the bananas. But it learned, okay, I don't go up there. Gradually, all of the monkeys who were the original monkeys who recognized the correlation that if I climb up there, everyone else gets shocked, they were all removed. And eventually you were left with just monkeys that had been beaten up when they tried to get the bananas. None of them had been shocked. So none of them knew the original reason why they were doing that. There's another story I can share. This is about a little bit less harsh story. There's a family, and they always make a meatloaf at Thanksgiving to share. And so the youngest daughter is learning from her mother how to make the meatloaf, the famous family meatloaf. And so they're doing it, they cook it, and then they're about to serve it, and the mother says, okay, now cut off the ends of the meatloaf before you serve it. And the daughter asks, well, why? And her mother says, you know, I don't know, let's ask grandma. So they call in the mother's mother, grandma, and they say, why do we cut the ends off the meatloaf before we serve it? And the grandmother says, well, the meatloaf wouldn't fit in the serving dish that I had, so I would cut the ends off and to put it in there. So there was a logical reason, but this just became a habit. And the mother, who had learned it from her mother, just got in the habit of doing that. That's the way we do things. And she, unlike her daughter, didn't question why we're doing things. So it's important to question, to ask, why are we doing what we're doing? And this can be important in spirituality, where we may have to have a lot of faith and follow our teachers. And teachers may not always be able to show you right away, but they should be able to explain to you in some way why it's important to do what it is that you're doing. Because otherwise things can get really dangerous really quickly. So now let's look at the opposite scenario or situation, which is a sort of slavish adherence to what's new. This is what happens a lot in the United States. We have all this innovation. We have goat yoga, we have aerial yoga, we have partner yoga, we have hot yoga, we have every kind of yoga that there is. None of these innovations are traditional. Now, I'm not saying that they aren't valuable, okay? I really want you to hear me on this, because people will hear me give a talk like this and think I'm criticizing their favorite form of yoga, and I'm not. But just because something is new, it does not mean it's better. And in the United States especially, I think we're very guilty of assuming that because something is new, it's better. For instance, cooking with Teflon cookware. So the coating that they put on that kind of cookware It's my understanding that as you cook the food, the chemicals that make up the non-stick surface slowly leach into your food. Now, those chemicals are not okay for you to ingest. It's not something you want in your body. And yet that's exactly what's happening, is those materials are slowly coming off into your food. And if you've ever had a nonstick pan like that, I've had many in my life, you see it slowly eventually begins to wear off and come off, the coating on that. This is opposed to a cast iron skillet, where once it's been seasoned well, the materials in there do not leach into the food. In fact, some of the iron might leach into the food, but we actually need iron. So you're actually getting sort of a free dietary supplement, if you will. Cast iron's been around for a very, very long time. We know it's not harmful. Whereas Teflon cookware or nonstick cookware, it's relatively new. It's relatively new. And while it's great to think, oh, now I can cook and it's non-stick and it's so easy to clean, again, are we actually maybe poisoning ourselves when we do that? Now, again, I'm not drawing any conclusions here. If you like your non-stick pans and you want to keep cooking with them, go right ahead. But these are just examples that I can think of from my own life, my own experience, that illustrate the point. So again, as a yoga teacher, I see teachers and people who slavishly follow either tradition or innovation. And in my experience, both are a mistake. The truth is, or the answer is, we want to be awake. And when we're awake and we're asking questions and we're paying attention, we will find some things that are old are very valuable, and we need to maintain those traditions and continue them without trying to innovate, without trying to change them, without trying to update them, without trying to make them snazzy or fashionable or cool or new in some way. And then other times we need to be open to innovation, something truly new that comes along that is valuable. We want to be open to adaptation and to incorporating these ideas or practices into our approach. And so, like with so many other things where the mind wants to choose this or that, we really want to approach things with a yes and attitude, where do I need tradition? Yes, and I need innovation. Do I need innovation? Yes, and I need tradition. Tradition should really inform innovation. So think about this in your spirituality. Are you slavishly trying to be a Buddhist monk of 1,000 years ago and just follow the Buddha's ancient teaching without looking at anything new or innovative? And on the other hand, you have the attitude that all the old stuff, you don't need to study tradition, you don't need to read the old scriptures, you don't need to study the Bhagavad Gita or the Yoga Sutras, you're a modern power yogi and you don't need to know about any of that stuff. Again, I think both of these points of view are lacking. Yes, and yes, I need to study the tradition. Yes, I need to know as much as I can about the history of, say, yoga if I'm a yogi, or Christianity if I'm a Christian. But at the same time, I want to be open to new interpretations, new understandings, and teachings that come from the world we live in now. Because we don't live 1,000, 2,000 years ago. We're living in the present moment. And the spiritual teachings and things that will resonate now may not be the same as before. So again, really the answer is both. I need both. Both are valuable. Both are important. I need to be open to both and to investigate both and to pick the valuable pieces from both tradition and innovation. All right, everyone, I hope you found this talk valuable. If you did, again, you can help me continue by simply giving me a thumbs up, subscribing, commenting, and then again, if you'd like to do more, please consider contributing financially. Thank you so much for listening and your attention. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.